Knothi Seuton, love, peace, blessing, all manner of health, happiness, goodness, abundance, prosperity, healing to those who need it. Something good is going to happen to you today. And want to talk about your own energetic kingdom, or as the ancient Essenes, the word that they used was kindom. In other words, instead of just being male and the king, they used the word kin, as in surrounded by your family. So it's not there's no tyrant energy. It's just a happy, loving family environment. And when we're setting up our own kingdom, our own surrounding energetically, it's very, very powerful. And it's something that, after coming out of the Prussian education system that is developed to designed simply to produce soldiers, which is the education system that the world runs on, and that has been coupled together with the Industrial Revolution. It's either designed to make you a soldier or a cog in the machine, a worker bee. But our system is not, or I should say our mandatory system, where people around the world are forced to attend and become indoctrinated in. It's not a system to develop any individual and their individual gifts and talents. Now, they may recognize some individual gifts and talents, but they develop them for their own use, that they being the system, the system of the world, whatever you want to call it, the matrix, anything that works for you. I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. So when we're setting up our own kingdom, there is the understanding of sovereignty, of everyone being sovereign, everyone being equal, everyone having inalienable rights that cannot be taken from anyone. And when you recognize that's what you're building, when you look at your life as you're building an energetic kingdom, your own economy, your own support system, and when you build it in a loving, caring, kind way, when you're practicing ahimsa, which means do no harm, it's good. It's positive. There's no parasites, there's no emotional drains, there's nothing to get in the way of your own personal happiness and well-being. And when we set up these systems energetically, we recognize that everything is energy. We don't have to be submitted to someone else's kingdom, because that has been the style, that's been the formula that has dominated the world for at least 2 millennia. Well, probably more than that when we go the whole way back to where it really started. If we go all the way back to Babylon, of course it's more than that. But when you recognize that you are sovereign and that you have the right to be sovereign, you have the unalienable right to create your own life in a way that is good for you. You look back, and I think that's one of the cool things of going through colonial areas in the United States, and you see all over the place, you see these huge houses, and you find houses that were owned by some of the trendsetters in their era, in their time. Edison House, the Jefferson House, just many of the people who recognized the idea and the right of sovereignty. And you go to these places, and you find that there's a lot of alchemy involved. The houses are facing a certain way, either to capture the most sun, or to be oriented with the different equinoxes. They're just like the ancient temples, because they knew and they understood the importance of an energetic life, an energetic lifestyle, recognizing that we are part of a mass universe that is actually friendly and working together, for the good of all. And of course that includes other life forms that we may not be aware of right now. But the idea of sovereignty and setting up your own kingdom, not being a slave, or the old word was bond slave, making it sound like that's better somehow, to someone else's kingdom. And when you recognize that and you start to make changes, I think probably one of the most powerful and useful points of view, even though it's just a a rephrasing of an older term, but Eckhart Tolle, like he says, when you recognize that you're in a situation that may not be serving you at the moment, you don't necessarily have to dramatically change the situation, just change the way you're doing it. Change it from something that is maybe feel oppressive or tormenting at the moment. But if you change it into a spiritual practice, what happens is that you're able to start changing the energy that was, or free yourself from the energy that was probably feeding off of you in that situation. And then that way you don't lose. Like a job is a good example. If you're in a job and it's just a situation that's not blessing you, it's not serving you, you don't have any joy, and it's actually the opposite, it's draining you, well, you still have to pay the bills, and you probably have yourself in a financial obligation where you need a certain amount of money. So you can't just quit, you can't just walk away. You have to be able to maintain yourself until you can energetically open the door to something that is suited for you personally. And so the process of doing that, instead of turning into a state of mourning and feeling like a victim or feeling sorry for ourselves because of the situation, we turn it into a spiritual practice where we recognize the energy, and we recognize again our own personal rights as a sovereign being to live a life of freedom, and that we are we live in our own kingdom. And then that's what we begin to build, instead of being a subject, a bond slave to someone else's kingdom. And now, of course, but the cool thing is, the ancient word, I believe in the Essene tradition, is kibbutza, where it's it was a more like a communal life, where people who had different gifts worked together to support each other. And some people were good at farming, so they grew all the food, they grew all the fruits, they grew all the vegetables. Others were good at different types of crafts, so that's what they did. And others had other gifts, and so it was more suited towards individual giftings being brought together to be a blessing and support the whole. And that still exists. If no one's ever heard of eco communities or eco villages, eco villages. Some people call them intentional communities, that is set up on the same framework. Of course, some of them are different. Some of them have different religious beliefs, and one of them may fit into your personal religious tradition, and others are more universal, but they're out there, and a lot of them are thriving. And of course, they're just like everything else, they're not perfect. And I'm sure you have people who have their their grievances, in that type of situation. But and I can't say from experience because I haven't, lived that way myself. But when I was in any type of situation where, like when I was in Bible college with my wife, having that environment of, just like-minded people with the same intention, going in the same direction, with the same or similar faith and belief, it was a much more peaceful existence. It was, just a lighter way to live, because the support was, to me, it seemed like it seemed just more supportive, as opposed to when we, moved to an area, specifically the area where we are right now, where we didn't know anybody, and there's like no support whatsoever. So while my wife and I grew really, really strong together, of course there is, there's just an area where, again, you don't have that type of support that others might have. And so when we recognize, the freedom and the ability to build our own kingdom, a surrounding, a support system, and again, it has to be one that's free. Again, when we're speaking of, religious communities, some of them, can be very, very legalistic, and can be very, very fear-based, where it's fear of your eternal future, and fear of being punished if you, don't do things a certain way, or and it becomes a system of fear, and that's certainly not what I'm talking about. But on the flip side, we do see that there are those types of religious communities, like the Amish and the Mennonite, for instance, that have thrived in their way of living for, hundreds and hundreds of years. And, it's just a different way of life, a different way of living. And it turns out, that they don't need all of, these technologies that, the rest of us think we need. And the rest of us, as a group, as a species, as a human race, we find out that the technological human race that we are right now is the most stressed out and diseased and, unhappy. Okay, maybe I can't say the most, but it just seems like, this group is not happy. It just seems like, modern humanity, coming out of the result of this Prussian industrialized mindset, that we're not happy. And in fact, that, there are a lot of people, I don't even know if it's the majority, but that it's a high percentage that struggle, with depression. And of course, there's a lot of things that are, factored into that: diet, lifestyle, what we believe about ourselves and our surroundings. But on the other side of that, we recognize that there are movements, there are people who are going in, a different direction, who are recognizing, toxicity, that are recognizing ancient practices like feng shui, the flow of energy, not just in our body, but in our homes, and, in the places where we work. And this, this wisdom has certainly become a lot more popular. And when we can, marry that together with a healthy understanding of, who we truly are, when we can bring back the exiled feminine, that has been thrown out of, most of the traditions, that have influenced, the West, that have influenced the United States, the Americas, and when we can return to true male-female balance. And to anyone who, isn't aware, the archaeological records are just very, very phenomenal. But they go back to an ancient, an ancient story of humanity, where the feminine, took more of a leadership role, if not, the final word, like a tribal mother. And when you go back to that age, as deep as they dig and as far as they go around the world, they don't find any weapons. They don't find any records of wars. There's no records of, humans being ugly and harmful and, murdering other humans. You find that there was, thousands upon thousands of years of peace among our human species. And it's also when you find, megalithic structures, just symbols that are telling us now, and I think we're becoming awake to in our time, that there's a better way, and that, that what the story that the indigenous, tribes are telling us, that, Earth was invaded. It was invaded by an alien influence that tampered with us. To those of you who are not aware of our genetic makeup right now, our DNA has been literally fused at the telomeres, which is something that is not a mutation. That is a surgical procedure that has to be done by a very advanced civilization, a very advanced species that knows exactly what we are doing. And the indigenous tribes tell us, that this, invasive species gave us their mind. In other words, took away our mind. And so when you see the, Neanderthals and, ancient human ancestors, or ancestors that humans bred with, you see that they aren't building, technology that, creates toxicity. All of their technology was energy. It was the form of, building megalithic stone structures that focus the energy. For anybody who's, visited any of these structures, or, been on mountain tops, or been on indigenous trails, hiking on these trails, I'm sure you've recognized that they are all, they cross water, they cross springs, they go through ancient forests, and, they make ancient turns, and they're all energetic supporters of humankind. They're not energetically toxic to humankind, like the cell phone that I'm speaking into right now, like the RFF, the RF frequencies that are being, released by all of these power lines, electric lines that are around us and going into our homes. Just all of the, magnetic and electric influence that is simply, toxic for human beings. Ibrahim Karim, the founder of biogeometry, tells the story of a time traveler from our age, and of course, it's just allegorical. It's just a symbolic story. It didn't happen literally that we know of. But a modern guy, he travels back into ancient Egypt, and he shows them his cell phone, and he says, "Oh, check this out! Look what we can do!" And he, flips through the pages, and he does all the, making pictures bigger and reducing them down smaller, and the pharaoh, and the pharaoh shows it to his, to his priests, to his magicians, and upon looking at it, they're like, "Oh wow, yeah, that is very interesting. Wow, that's very magical." And then they get out their pendulums and their dowsing instruments that they use to identify energy, and they're reading, they're measuring the energy that's coming off this. They're like, "Ooh, whoa, hey, yeah, this is neat, and it is amazing and everything, but it's toxic to humans. I mean, the energy that it runs on and that it emits is toxic to humans," and they hand it back, and they want nothing to do with it. And so we recognize that our planet is an incredible source and center of energy that in its original state is healthy to its inhabitants. healthy to all its habitants, human, animal, trees, plant life, all type of conscious life. Our planet is nurturing to those systems. But the systems that have been handed down to us in recent times, first of all, to build armies to go off and trespass and abuse others, and second of all, to be workers in an industrial age, is toxic. And it is, in fact, building a toxic future and a toxic machine that all of the, brilliant minds will tell you is that they know is going to be overtaken by AI. And Elon Musk is telling us that, if we, start, interfacing human minds, with this AI, somehow that's going to save us. Maybe, I don't know. But what's wrong with, returning and restoring, our human lifestyle to a place where, we don't have to murder anything. We don't have to struggle and fight against each other, because it's a well-known fact. Our Mother Earth already has an abundance, so that everyone can be, live a multi-millionaire experience without being toxic, without stealing from somebody else. No one has to lose. We all have the ability to live our true, authentic life without having any offenses, any grievances of our unalienable, what that word really gets me, doesn't it? Unalienable rights. And everyone can live that way, and everyone can be free to live that way. And especially now, people are, just a little bit, uneasy about, what are we going to do economically? I mean, jobs are disappearing. Again, AI is taking over in lots of different areas, and humans are quickly becoming obsolete. Many people see that. So if anybody is interested in a time-tested method that has been running online for over 20 years that anyone can use to successfully work from home, please feel free to visit my website, outofboxwealth.org, and click on Show Me the Money for an alternative that has been working for thousands upon thousands worldwide and can work for anyone who's interested in coming out of the box, changing your mind, open to something different, open to an alternative point of view. That can be something that, instead of working, sun up to sundown and then some, 7 days a week, you can put yourself in a situation of working maybe 10 hours a week and, having, twice the financial harvest from. So with that, love, peace, blessing, all manner of health, wellness, and goodness unto you and your family. Something good is going to happen to you today. Ginothi Seyutan. Namaste.